Whangarei, buongiorno everybody, welcome to this morning, our council meeting on the 24th of April 2024. Councillor Benny, I believe, is going to open us up with a prayer o karakia.
Morena, kia ora. I want to take this opportunity to say mairira, farewell, to a friend and colleague, policewoman Gail Shepherd, who was tragically killed Saturday morning. A police officer for 15 years, she was a strong, capable wahine. She was recently appointed the sole charge constable at Hohora to replace her brother, Leon Smiley Shepherd. Only a handful of women have ever taken up the challenging role of the sole station, and it is a measure of her courage, strength and mana that she took this path. It was my pleasure to promote and escort Gail's mother, Auntie Bess, to last year's Civic Awards, where she received one of our Civic Awards, a very worthy recipient and a family that was very worthwhile. A strong family that will be incredibly tested by this tragedy. Kua haere ia ki tona moenga roa. She has gone to her eternal rest. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. I think those sentiments will be felt by the whole family in whānau at this time. Thank you for opening us up as well. Councillors, we just need to acknowledge our declarations of interest. If there is any declarations of interest during the meeting, please acknowledge those at the time. We have an apologies at the present moment from Councillor McKenzie and Councillor Ruka. We have Councillor Golightly online, which is great to see you, Councillor Golightly. Councillors and members of the public, I just need to remind everyone, today's meeting is live streamed. It is so if you are in agreements with something, we encourage you not to actually clap, but actually to use the sign language version of it, which is basically raising hands like this, just so that the noise doesn't go through, and also so that we can actually, people who are listening at the other end can hear clearly. So I appreciate if you take that in time. Thank you, Carolyn, for reminding me on that. Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Benny, you're moving. The apologies. Councillor Cooper is seconding. All those in favour? No? No one against? Excellent, carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to, what we got here? We can move on to the public forum. And our first speaker is David Irvine. Where's David? And Councillor Harding's going to teach you how to use the microphones. Excellent. So, David, what you've got is you've got 5 minutes to talk to us and explain what you're going to be talking to us about. You've got this time. At the end of that, councillors have the opportunities to ask you questions. So the time is yours.
Good morning. My name is David Irvin. I'm the chairman of the Blackwall Maritime Society, and I'm here to update the council on the society's activities with organizing this year's Whangarei Maritime Festival. The Maritime Festival's purpose is to celebrate Whangarei's maritime past, present, and future, and to showcase the educational and employment opportunities in the marine trades. Also to raise awareness of the economic impact of the marine industry on the region's economy. Over 13,000 people from all over Whangarei and Auckland, as far as Auckland, came together and enjoyed the first annual Whangarei Maritime Festival. Ended up being one of the largest events in Northland last year. The overwhelmingly positive feedback from the visitors, exhibitors, businesses, and media encouraged us to run the festival again this year. It provides a unique opportunity to shine a spotlight on the local marine industry and to showcase Whangarei to the rest of New Zealand. The festival, the Maritime Festival, was initiated by the Blackwall Yacht Club which is a unique yacht club formed in 2018 by a bunch of international cruisers that had come to visit Whangarei and wanted a coordinated effort to be able to say thank you to the hospitality that the community had showed us. The main function of the yacht club is to raise money for its scholarship fund, which encourages young people to get involved in the marine trades. In 2023, the Blackball Yacht Club reorganized itself into the Blackball Maritime Society to reflect the larger activities, establish itself as a registered nonprofit, increase its managerial transparency, and to increase its efforts to reflect the broader community interest. The society is the official operator of the festival. In 2022, a couple cruisers from the Blackball Yacht Club stood at the newly renovated walkway in front of the museum and thought what a great place that would be to have a boat show. Not one to sell boats, but one to celebrate the marine industries. The newly portion of the river loop walkway, the BBC organized 10 boats, mostly classic New Zealand designs, with nameplates and information boards at their stern, generated quite a bit of interest, and that was really the beginning of the idea of this year's festival, of last year's festival. Last year we had 32 boats on display, 31 trade stands, 11 lectures. 200 boats were built by kids that were from kits made by the Men's Shed. Over 400 T-shirts were printed in the kids area of Fish. And as I say, over 13,000 people attended. It was covered by RNZ 9 to noon on the radio, RNZ First Up Wednesday, Boating New Zealand. Had quite a media presence on the internet. The Northern Advocate also covered us rather extensively, and since then Whangarei's been showcased on 7 Sharp. The success of the 23 festival has proven that Whangarei Maritime Festival can become one of the key events in Northland. It's to enhance Whangarei's reputation as a premier destination, opportunity to showcase local talent through innovation, entertainment, and craftsmanship. It provides a platform for sharing stories about the maritime heritage of Whangarei and enables the promotion of the marine industry as a career and raises funds to encourage the region's youth to participate in the maritime world. It's a free event open to the public. We did quite well last year with having a party and involving boats. The weather could not have been any more cooperative. Boats, flags, and a sunny day. It's a no wind. So this year we're focusing more on the other 2 legs of our intentions, which is the educational and employment opportunities, and to showcase the economic impact on the region. In addition to the cast of characters we had last year, the Navy is going to join us this year. The folks who are doing the ground effect airplane ferry service between Marsden and Auckland is going to be in the show this year. Mast, who was part of the show last year, is going to have an increased presence this year. Graphic format, the extent of the marine industry here in Whangarei. And we're hopeful that all of you will not only come to this year's event, but support us in whatever way you can. So.
Thank you, David. Look, David, just want 2 seconds just to see if there's any questions. I appreciate you coming and making the presentation. It's really cool. Any questions from the councillors? No questions, David. Well done. Well done in your presentation. Thank you for keeping to time. Yeah, awesome. And thank you for the members of the audience who actually use the sign language well. I acknowledge you for that. Our next speaker is Robin Stiles. Is Robin here? Yes, Robin. Excellent. Robin, as before with David, you've got 5 minutes. Relax, take your time with it, and just remember. Excuse me, members of the public. This is actually a meeting here, please. So, Robin, you've got 5 minutes. When your 5 minutes is up, the bell will ring. We'll ask you to, at that time, round up so that we can actually, if there's got any questions, okay?
Right. We are all here today to support Gavin Benny and his motion to extend the time frame for when Whangarei has to poison the people's water. We also support the councillors who back this motion and will be out there come election time campaigning for you to be re-elected. To the rest of you who are thinking of not only voting against it, but bringing it forward, and who, when you see us coming, roll your eyes and say, "Here come the crazies." I suggest you sit up and listen to us crazies, as the number of us is growing substantially by the day. And we're not going to just roll over and let you poison the people's water, which, by the way, is illegal. By putting this poison in the water against the people's wishes, you are taking the democratic rights away from those of us who don't want it in our water. For the minority that do, there are fluoride tablets. I'm not going to waste my time talking about the harm fluoride causes, as you have heard about these many harms many times in these chambers when experts in this field have spoken, but you choose to ignore them. We presented you with a petition with over 1,000 signatures collected in a very short period of time. However, just like you did with the experts, you chose to ignore it. You do this at your peril. We are many, you are few. Power to the people, I say. We are no longer going to put up with the government's and the council's insidious, aggressive, corporate capture of our democratic institutions. We are sick of the woke ideology and agendas that are destroying our country. This uprising of the people is not just happening in Whangarei, but throughout the entire country. We are educating ourselves as to what our legal rights are and what actions we can take using these rights. Let me assure you there are many, and we will not hesitate to use them to protect our rights. Already a number of councils are having injunctions filed against them in the High Court. CEOs and councillors are having claims of harm filed against them on a personal level. A lot of these claims are being sent to their private addresses. The people know where you live. These actions are just the beginning. The High Court ruled in November 2023 that every decision maker must undertake a Bill of Rights analysis. We, the people, would like to see this analysis. The government and all departments and all councils in the police force 16, if you want to look it up. Council numbers, company number is 30000.
Well, actually, the second cheapest option of the survey, which is to do a telephone survey. There is a margin of error, which is a plus or minus 4.9%. So there is a, and as stated in there, there is a confidence of 95% for the confidence of the results. The survey cost the council $18,200, excluding GST. We had the other option, which was to do an internet-based survey. However, the councillors chose to choose the telephone survey because they found it to be more. It was going to be more reliable on the results. The results that are there open up for discussion. Councillors, any discussion on this? Councillor Benny.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on this because I think we've got an item coming up very shortly. But the survey is no surprise to me, to be honest. And it's the nature of the question which is the issue. The question could have easily, the answers would have been reversed pretty simply by the question, 14 other councils nationwide to add fluoride. If you had to change that to poison, you would have got a completely different answer. It's the nature of the question that creates the answer, not the question. Thank you.
Excuse me, members of the public, please be well aware, as I've asked you before, if you're improving on something, please show the sign language approach, not the clapping, please. Continue, Councillor Benny. Yep, that's all. Councillors, any other comments to that? No other comments. It has been moved and second. Councillor Hulse, are you got your microphone on for?
Yes. I was actually quite pleased with my ward response. Green Bay ward, where only 9% agreed that fluoride should be added, and that shows a reflection of the feeling out in the community. The general feeling in the rural areas is a total waste of money, and council should not be taking any notice of a director that's been ruled unlawful. So, thank you. That's the feedback I'm getting. Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it, Councillor Hulse. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. If most of the people I talked to had been rung, these would have been very different results. They would have been anti. Thank you.
Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm of the same vein. If a lot of people are on tank water, that survey to me, even though we agreed for a telephone survey, probably wasn't the best way to go about it. And most of the majority of the people I speak to are against it. So, yep.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Thank you, members of the audience. Councillors, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.6, which is on page 81. And I believe, Councillor Benny, you would like to move that one.
Yes, I would. I've got an alternative motion. That Council 1 notes the progress to date of the fluoridation equipment installation at the water treatment plants, and 2, request that the Mayor and Chief Executive before the end of April 2024 ask the Ministry of Health to grant an extension to the commissioning dates for fluoridation of water from the Ahuroa, Ruakaka, Faux Valley and Ruddles water treatment plants as directed by the Director General of Health's July 2022 directive until the 28th of February 2025.
And just to point out, I'll actually second that. I know I've got a fight between Councillor Reid and myself who actually wants to second it. I'll actually second that. Councillor Reid, Councillor Benny, you'd like to speak to that?
Yes, I would. Firstly, I want to thanks to Mr. Venmore and Mr. Sefton for the nature of this item. It's balanced and factually written, and it captures the mood of the council, and appreciate the effort that you put into doing that. I just want to go back a little bit. 14 councils were ordered in 2022 to fluoridate their water supplies. Most of them are now challenging that in one form or another. I must acknowledge the groups, organisations and individuals throughout the country, including here today, who are challenging this directive, which is wrong on so many counts. The recommendation today is one step in the fight only. It is by no means the end. The battle does not need to be fought today. This is the place, but this is not the time. This recommendation will allow us time to unite and put pressure on this coalition government to abide by their pre-election rhetoric that the public should decide what goes into their bodies, the most basic of human rights. I want to briefly dumb this down. The government wants to put poison into all our water supplies. All our water supplies.
I say point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Connor.
Many things that are poisons are actually able to create medicines. They are actually needed in the course of snake venom, for example. If you're bitten by a snake, you need the snake venom to actually create the antivenom. You need to utilize things to actually deal with things.
Councillor Connor, your point of order, I need to hear what your actual point of order is.
Good point.
There are many things that are poisons. The general gist of poison is everything. You could also say chlorine is poison. We already use that as well.
Yep.
So in the general gist of poison in general, we need to take this into account.
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Benny, can you...
Sorry, the poison is factually correct. There's no, although he's right in what he says, it makes no difference to what I've said or how I've said it.
Okay,
so it's a factual comment. Okay, so they want to put it in our water, all our water. They say, trust us, it is only a small amount of poison. They justify this by saying that the reason for it is that a tiny percentage of that water that is poisoned will hopefully be consumed by a small percentage of the population to hopefully improve their dental health. The remainder of the water still contains the poison. You will use it to bathe, to shower, to cook your food, to water your garden, and to wash your clothes in. We know what we're doing. Trust us. We know we've breached the Bill of Rights Act, but we're doing it for you. You can't make this stuff up. I'm almost finished. If there was an alternative to this, if there was no alternative to this, I would be supporting this. There are, however, a heap of better, cheaper, more healthier outcomes to this. And I've got one here, the Scottish version of the child smile. There are a whole lot of alternatives. The government is also coming along and saying we will spend hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the country setting up this equipment, which hopefully will put the right amount of poison in the water. We'll also put it on you, local government, who have no budget to do this, to continually put the poison in the water at our request. Honestly, you cannot make this stuff up. Thank you to the people here today. This is one step in the fight, and I look forward to the continuation of this.
And we acknowledge the audience there with showing the sign language. Councillor Cooper, you've got...
Yes, very quickly, Your Worship, some points of clarification. These chemicals that we put in the water and the term poison and so on has got me thinking. I just wondered if I could ask our technical team a question.
Through me, yes.
Through you, Your Worship, like the water perhaps, and that is, and to get context around the amount of fluoride/poison that we're putting into the water, is there anything that you can compare it? So, for instance, things like salt water, cup of tea, how much fluoride in there? Is it more or less, do you know, than what we're talking about putting in our water?
Andrew, are you able to answer that question?
Through the chair, yeah, it's a bit difficult to give a context. I can give the numbers, but that probably doesn't mean an awful lot. I mean, for instance,
excuse me, members of the public. Sorry, if you can't hear, please just let us know, but don't just keep yelling out at us. Andrew, can you bring the microphone closer to you, please?
Maybe I have to rephrase the question to make it a little easier to understand. I haven't explained myself very well. The concentration of fluoride/poison that we're would put into our drinking water, how does that compare to the concentrations of fluoride/poison that naturally occur in some of these other things that we, for instance, Councillor Benny mentioned the seawater. Do you know the concentration of naturally occurring fluoride in seawater?
Through the chair, no, I'm not aware of that figure. I know that the concentration of naturally occurring fluoride in our water is very low, which is why they recommend increasing it. But in other areas around the world, there are high levels of fluoride naturally occurring that would be above the 0.7 milligrams per litre that's recommended.
Okay, I mean, that, Your Worship, as we continue forward on this debate, would be quite interesting information to have to give us context. So thank you.
Appreciate that, Councillor Cooper. Any other questions or points? As there are none, Councillor Benny, would you like your right of reply?
No, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Okay. The councillors, the motion is there. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any opposed? Councillor Golightly, was that opposed or for? For, right, thank you. She was just a little bit late with the putting up the hand, that's all. So, okay, so it's been carried. Okay. We'll now move on to item 6.1, and we acknowledge the members of the public on this. 6.1, which is on page 11. This is and I will move that this is the resignation of the Risk and Audit Chairperson. That the Whangarei District Council 1 notes the resignation of Richard Briggs from the role of Risk and Audit Chairperson and requests the Mayor write a letter of appreciation to Mr. Briggs for his service. And 2, notes that the Chief Executive will conduct a contestable process to identify a suitable candidate for the role of Chair of the Risk and Audit Committee. I've moved that, Councillor Cooper, and I've had a seconder from Councillor Holmes. Councillors, it is one of those situations we've put ourselves in a situation here where Richard has managed to find himself with Councillor Holmes. Just a point on that one. Councillor Holmes actually becomes the chairperson when the chairperson is not there, so he instantly becomes into that role.
Mr. You wish I thought you'd ask a question like that, but all councils' appointment to chairs is ratified by council, and I want to make sure that's done today. So any issues crop up, we've got an acting chairman. Thank you.
Okay. So and Councillor Harding is seconding that motion. So, Councillor Holmes, can you please reread that amendment so Carolyn can write it down properly?
Okay, I've got it.
You've got it? Carolyn's got it?
Yep.
That Councillor Holmes.
Yep.
That council appoints Councillor Patrick Holmes to act as interim chair whilst the contestable process is undertaken.
Yes.
Okay. And Councillor Harding has seconded that amendment. Any discussion to that? Councillor Hulse?
No.
No, you want to discuss it? Councillor Holmes?
I suppose I just ought to say I'm happy to do that if that's the will of the council. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate that. As there is no other discussion to that, we will move the amendment. All those in favour? Any opposed? The amendment becomes substantial. We'll now move the motion, which is including of item 3, so 1, 2 and 3. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.2, which is on page 15. And Councillor Cooper, Councillor Peters got in before you. Councillor Peters would like to move the psychiatric substance policy statement of proposal, and Councillor Cooper, I'll take you as being seconding it.
That council adopts the statement of proposal attachment 1 for public consultation, determines that a summary of the information contained in the statement of proposal is not necessary to enable public understanding of the proposal, and 3, authorises the chief executive to approve any necessary minor drafting or presentation amendments to the statement of proposal to correct errors or omissions or to reflect decisions made by the council at this meeting prior to final printing and publication.
Councillor, it has been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to it?
Only briefly. I think this is important to review, and I approve of the position council has originally taken on it, and we'll see what the public say. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Very quickly, I just wish to acknowledge the work of the team on this. I think it's straightforward. We've workshopped it, and there seems, in my opinion, no need to take too long over this. Thank you, Armin.
Sorry, 1 second here. I'm just going to do this. Councillors, is there any other comments? No. As it's been moved to second, Councillor Peters, would you like your right of reply?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay. Right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Golightly, I did get you as being for it, so it's okay. We'll now move on to item 6.3, page 25. Do I have a move, Councillor Peters? You'd like to move that? And Councillor Connaught will second it. Councillor Peters, would you like to read that one as well?
That council adopts the statement of proposal, attachment 1, for the public consultation, determines that a summary of the information contained in the statement of proposal is not necessary to enable public understanding of the proposal, authorises the chief executive to approve any necessary minor drafting or presentation amendments to the statement of proposal
to correct errors or omissions, or to reflect decisions made by council at this meeting prior to the final printing and publication.
It has been seconded. Would you like to speak to it?
I've already indicated that for me, I think that workers need a rest on Easter. So that is my position. Whether or not anybody else agrees with me is a matter. I actually think that people need a rest on Sunday generally, but we have moved well away from that, which I think is unfortunate. Thank you.
Any other councillors for comments? Councillor Hulse.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. My one is not so much about the actual issue here, it's about how much we're putting up for consultation and expect everyone to give us feedback. Because if you go to ratepayer groups and it's just overload, they're just saying how much overload they are every time we go out to them. So we've got to be a bit, I think, we should package them up into a session. We have some consultation on a number of matters, but give them a big space in between, because we're getting told all the time, don't keep feeding us because you're going to do what you want to do anyway. So, because people are disengaging. If we go to consultations, it's meant to be allowing our public to engage with us, but we're actually working against that principle. Thank you.
Yeah. Point taken, Councillor Hulse. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Worship. I share Councillor Peter's respect for Sunday and the religion, the Christian religion. However, I do hear the will of the people on this one, and I also recognise that there are many ways for Christians to practice their religion, but I do think it's a little bit sad to be moving away from a Sunday and the sanctity of that day at Easter.
Yep. Councillor Connor.
Thank you. One of the things that I keep hearing, aside from there's too much consultation, is we're not talking to the people enough. We're not actually getting the views of the public. And the fact that we're in the role that we are to try and get as much of this done so that it is easier for the public to be able to deal with, unfortunately, we do have to go out to these consultations because, one, we legally have to, but also, two, we need to be able to hear what our public and the variety of public we have need to say. Decline of one religion doesn't take away from any other religion, doesn't take away from any atheist or any other type of person that is out there. We have a wide variety of people within our district. We have people that love traveling on holidays when they're able to, and sometimes that actually they need to be able to go shopping as well. This does not take away from the fact that people can have that as a holiday, and it states it within the information. It just opens up other channels that would stop people who may not choose to follow this religion's practices. So it is not in disregard to it, but it allows other people who are not followers of a particular religion their availability for themselves and their own.
Point taken. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. It comes down to individual choice. Our country now floats around 7-day trading. I see milk tankers out every day of the year. Farmers out every day of the year. They have cows to milk. We have shopkeepers. They work every day of the week. They have to make a living. And I think for us to try and force a closure when someone is prepared to work is a little unfair. I have staff who are happy to work, believe it or not, they actually do work, on public holidays because they get time and a half and a day in lieu. So if they give up today, they get paid well to do it, plus they get an extra day's holiday. So with 11 days public holiday now, they have the ability to have quite a good holiday session should they take it. And I just think we need to sit back and have a good look at how our country is running now. I can recall when it used to shut at 5 o'clock on a Friday night and reopen again at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. And it wasn't until we changed that our country went ahead via longer shopping hours and made it more attractive to overseas visitors. So I'm not saying we need to focus just on visitors, but We do need to give people the ability to make a living.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Holmes?
Just a brief one from me, Your Worship. So, I mean, I don't follow any prescribed religion, but I respect those who do and their deeply held views. My concern really is around ensuring that workers have the right to decline to work if it is within their religious beliefs and are not forced into a position where they have to work. So I'm more concerned about the freedom of choice of people to choose whether or not they do observe these holidays because of their particular beliefs. But I think, I think we know from previous workshops that the previous or the existing rules are a jumble and a confusing mess, and that you can do certain things on a over Easter and you can't and do other things. So I think there is certainly a need to try and tidy these up, as long as we protect the rights of workers to decline to work, and if they choose to follow a particular religious belief, we should not be forcing them into stepping aside from that. Thanks.
Points taken there, Councillor Holmes, and it is within the actual government rules at the present moment that you are allowed to refuse, and you're not penalised for that. So there is that in there. As there is no other comments, Councillor Peters, would you like your right of reply?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I am Christian, but this is not my argument. My argument is about the health of human beings and their need to have a rest, basically. And I take Councillor Holmes's point. 1 day a week, that's part of the reason why religions put forward 1 day a week of rest, because it's good for people. People need to be with their families, they need to spend time with their families. And one of the ways of doing that is to assign a day where everybody has to have a rest. And they have to get organised on other days to go to the supermarket or buy their clothes. So, yeah. So I'm just pointing out that religion is not my argument. It's about the health of human beings.
Points taken, Councillor Peters. Councillors, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any opposed? Thank you, Councillor. It's been carried. We'll now move on to item 6.4, which is on page 37, and it also has a supplementary agenda, which is on page 3 on the supplementary agenda. This is 6.4.1. Councillor Cooper, you would like to move this?
Yes, Your Worship.
Do I have a seconder? And Councillor Connick will second it. Councillor Cooper, can you please read the motion, please?
I will read the motion on page 37, Your Worship.
That's correct. There is nothing to read on page 3 of the supplementary.
That's good background information on page 3. Right. Recommends that the Council 1 agrees that making a new dog management bylaw is the most appropriate way to address the perceived problem. After resolving 1 above, that Council 2 adopts the statement of proposal as provided in Amendment 2 of this agenda report for public consultation. 3 confirms that the proposed dog management bylaw as included in Attachment 2, 1 is in the most appropriate form of the bylaw, and 2 does not give rise to any implications under and is not inconsistent with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990. 4 agrees that the summary of the information contained in the statement of proposal is not necessary to assist in public understanding of the proposal. 5 approves the consultation plan as provided in Attachment 3 of this agenda report. 6 authorises the Chief Executive to approve any necessary minor drafting or presentation amendments to the statement of proposal to correct errors or omissions, or to reflect decisions made by the Council prior to final printing and publication.
Councillor, as it has been moved and seconded, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's supposed to be taken in 2 parts. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. 1. The first part needs to be done. That's correct, which is agrees that making a new dog, but you are able to speak to it.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. This has been workshopped through us. I thank the team for their work. Will loves bylaws, and he does a good job at it, and he's well supported by the team. I don't think there's much requirement for us to go through this any further, but as the chairman of the Exemptions and Objections Committee, I do think that we do. It'll be any tool that helps us manage this problem is a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, good points, Councillor Cooper. Council, I just wanted to highlight with the supplementary report there, it's to provide the policy and bylaw which was omitted from the original attachment, plus the PDF maps of dog access rules. So it's basically just supporting information for you as councillors. Any other comments? Councillor Peters.
Just a thank you to our dog people who are controlling dogs. That I love dogs, but there are so many things that our council is doing to prevent the wolf in our backyard from being dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peters. Councillor Holmes.
As an owner of a wolf in the back garden, I just want to just follow up what Councillor Cooper said. Really, I sit on that committee with Councillor Cooper, so anything to clarify what we can and can't do, and to tidy this up is welcome. And again, I just want to thank the staff as well. We've workshopped this, and the staff have taken into account a lot of the comments that we made, and we see those come through in the revised proposal here. So you've done a great job there, and I thank you for that, and I support this. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
E te koro matua tēnā koe. Kia ora team, great work. I just wanted to make comment around the results of the surveys and whole socio-economic kind of trials that they have with that. But through the survey, what came out really strongly was around that education and training for the dog owners of their dogs. So I support the recommendations that they have. I just wanted to share some of the comments and feedbacks I've had individually with different people around why we don't give them enough time to be able to recover their dogs and the amount of cost that it takes. So, but great work team, kia ora tātou.
Good points there, Councillor Harding. Councillor Harding, just for future, when you're using your microphone, you might want to raise it up a little bit so that it's actually coming direction, because I did know you were getting very quiet there for a bit.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Councillors, are there any other comments? As there are no other comments, Councillor Cooper, would you, dog management bylaw is the most appropriate way to address the perceived problem? All those in favour? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you, councillors. Now we'll move on to the next part, which is items 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.5, which is on page 73. And I believe Councillor Olsen has asked to move this. And Councillor Peters, you're seconding it. Yeah. You've got the amendment. Okay, so Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Again, I'll ask you to bring the microphone. That's it.
Yep.
Excellent.
Right. So I've just made. I just want to declare an interest that I am on the Board of Trustees for the Quarry Garden.
Councillor, you may need to bring your microphone a little bit closer to you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Perfect. Okay. So I just want to thank the Parks team, Louis, your team, and everybody concerned for all the hard work you've done, and Jim, your infrastructure team as well. And thank you, Thomas.
Councillor, before you start going, you need to actually read the motion.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I just wanted to get the thank yous out of the way.
It's afterwards.
Okay. Right. So the recommendations are that the council notes the quarry gardens have suffered extensive damage because of extreme weather events of February 23, and that circa 500,000 unbudgeted slip management has been undertaken since that time to prevent risks to property, i.e. the cafe, people and the stream. 2. Approves budget of 450,000 for repairs to the lower slip, the Totra slip and stream stabilisation works, which will reduce the risk to property and visitors, as well as reducing operating costs of slip management. 3. Notes that this budget will be offset by reallocation of budgets from within the parks and recreation activity and can be accommodated within the annual budget, i.e. it will reduce carryovers. 4. Notes that no further work will be undertaken on the upper slip as it is considered that this would be an operational budget and does not provide value for money. The rest of the ongoing slip will be managed from a health and safety perspective, and over time the slip material may make its way into the watercourse.
So, Councillor Olsen, you've moved it. Councillor Peters, you've seconded that. You can now speak to it. Now that's when you get to talk to us.
Thank
You know.
Right, okay, I've got the thanks out of the way. Right, and the other thing I'd just like to say is thank you to all the councillors that attended the walk around. I think it would have given you a really good perspective of what has happened and what needs to be done. The quarry garden is a jewel in the crown of Whangarei. I feel it's an amazing facility. This is a natural disaster that has taken place, and the options here are the cheapest, I guess, way of remedying the damage. So I would just like to strongly encourage councillors to support this agenda item. We're not actually asking for any money, as in the recommendation it's been budgeted for, like from other sources. So yeah, I just would like to see the work commenced and completed.
And Councillor Peters, do you want to speak to it as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just quickly to say that, a bit closer, just quickly to say that I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, especially from the many volunteers. So what we get, what we put into this project, we get back 1,000-fold. And it is, as Councillor Olsen has said, a wonderful place for locals and national and international visitors to go to.
Okay. Councillor Connop, you have an amendment.
I do. Has there been any movement on the wording that I've presented?
What's that? Danielle's going to deliver out to make sure if that matches what your wording was. It was emailed out to the councillors as well.
The earlier part was.
We haven't got it.
Just before the meeting.
It's just coming through right now.
We don't have emails here.
Danielle is just sending it out in the paper version. Councillor Connor, what is your amendment, please?
Thank you. And I wholeheartedly support what Councillor Olsen has
to the amendment.
To number 4.
Yep.
Everything else is as stands. Yep. Number 4. Notes that no further work will be undertaken on the upper slip at this time, and that the upper slip will be considered through the LTP process regarding engineering works and mitigation of material entering the watercourse.
Okay. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Hardy will second that. Councillor Connor, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. Cyclone Gabriel was an absolutely terrible event and caused a lot of damage around the space. The item and some of the wording of this, to me, reads the cost of everything and the value of nothing. The health and safety of the people, but not for the environment. Within the actual document, it states here that Hapu strongly opposed the slip material entering the stream, and with any large downpour of water, it will. The original states that it does not provide value for money. The Whangarei Gardens is currently the second highest reviewed location for Whangarei in tourist options, second only to the Whangarei Falls. It is top 10 on TripAdvisor. The original option is literally the most cons of all, and the only pro is no financial cost to council. In my opinion, this is the absolute worst option. The cons: Environmental impact, public perception, the gardens could be closed, operational costs to a group, and as Councillor Peter, reliant on so many volunteers. This event, yes, was caused naturally. However, as it states in the name, it is a quarry. It is a man-made quarry with man-made gardens with a stream that's been modified by people and the instability caused by humans. Yes, it has fallen into it, but we also need to then mitigate it. The stream from the quarry flows not 20 meters outside of this building, literally right past us. So if there was a major event and much of that material slipped down, it would be flowing past us right now. Within the document, it states there is no compliance/legal requirements for council to contain the slipped material because it's a natural event. We shouldn't only do things because we legally have to. We can do more. This is an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff situation, and we're just not fueling it. Right now, and the past week, I've walked past Inanga, Whitebait, Parore, and children playing in the stream directly outside this building, directly linking into the quarry. If we don't consider the environment will detract. We will have impact worse than we already have. We already have so many other things that are entering the streams, and we need to mitigate something that we can. And I would really appreciate support if we can. Otherwise, we're just not doing our bit. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Hulse, I have you next.
Okay, thank you, Bishop. I couldn't understand exactly what Councillor Connor was trying to get there, but anyway, I'll go into what I want to say here. I'm actually not supporting this at all. And I can support the understanding. I went through the workshop supporting it, but this one here is the classic case of where we're getting the funds from. In this case, we're taking off the Ruakaka Cemetery. We're taking off a rural project to fund a city scheme or a city problem. I know we're taking oath to represent the whole district, but in this case, how many projects have we got in the city that we could have been shelved and put into this? Yeah, the Ruakaka Cemetery, believe it or not, is rated number 1 on the Ruakaka Ratepayer Submission to the long-term plan. Number 1. They've been waiting now for probably 10 years to get this up and running. Mr. Waterboy, who owned Waterboy Garages, was a promoter of it, and this was probably 15 years ago, and we still haven't got the cemetery operational. We've got the land, it's sitting there. This will be the 3rd time money has been stripped out of that project to fund something in the city. The 3rd time. Now, if we're going to be serious about putting things in the long-term plan, when problems come up, let's target where the funds should come from. We can't go down too far down the track. And the other thing is, why is it that the ward councils know nothing about it until we see it in an agenda? You know, ward councils, we go to the ratepayers. We're in the meeting where they put the Ruakaka ratepayer, the cemetery, at the top of the list. And now we've got to go back, if this is successful, to say, oh, sorry about that. You know, the council overruled us. Like, the point of the having ward councils is to try and take people with you, not to get them chopped off every time we get a project in place. So I'm totally against the funding of this. Yeah, we've got problems everywhere, but this is inappropriate for this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hulse. Councillor Peters, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Yes, mine is a question,
Yep, a question, okay.
as to why 4 was recommended that we did nothing. I heard when we went up there that it was a continual slip, and that was the reason it was better managed just as it went. You know, like, is that changed at all?
So, Councillor, your question is to the staff. Why was the big slip not included as works to be done? Louis, Jim or Louis, which
yeah, just through the chair. I'll let Louis answer that in a bit more detail, but just returning to Councillor Hulse's point, the budget that we're taking it from is regarding land purchase, which has already been completed. So Louis might expand on that. So it's not in the LTP. The project is still there. It's still there. Sorry, and apologies for not speaking to you about that sooner.
Louis, would you be able to answer
Yeah,
Mr. Peters' question there?
yeah. So through the chair, we did a site visit to Quarry Gardens with a number of councillors, and we were able to discuss the quantum of the problem, and we had an engineer on site as well from Whangarei. So we were able to talk quite a bit of detail about what was required. The challenge we have, and it was discussed on site, was with the upper slip, is we're not certain any engineering solution will be effective. So we could spend a lot of money for no result. And the ongoing management of the slip is an operational cost that has no finite date. And so we'll be spending money on this going forward. So that is why this has become a recommendation. Now, I appreciate there will be different views around the room, but this is the recommendation at this time.
Thank you, Louis, for that. Councillor Reid, you're next.
I'll defer to Councillor Harding.
Okay. Councillor Harding.
E te kora matua, kia ora. I wanted to support Councillor Councillor Connop's amendment because it supports the position from Parawhau, who are the local hapu that have been engaged on this project, and their willingness to mitigate, kind of what goes down into the streams. So I guess I really wanted to support that, acknowledging that, and thank you again, Councillor Olsen, for the hikoi through to the gardens. It actually is the first time that I've been there. So we totally understand, Louis, what we said out there on the day. In hindsight, now that we see it in black and white, and I think that I feel like it's noted.
And I actually lived in Russell Road for close on a decade and was very familiar with the territory in there. We have an issue. Nature is the boss. And when you look at the top bench of that quarry, normally a quarry used to be benched, so that if there was a fall, there was a series of benches that would catch the bulk of the problem. That does not apply in that particular instance, and when you look at the trees and the bush above it, we're not going to stop it. So our department, infrastructure, has not got enough money to keep throwing at every little thing that nature throws at us. Sometimes we've just got to let her be the boss. So I cannot support this amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am speaking now to support Councillor Holtz as a Green Bay Ward councillor. I can tell you that people are dying to get into that cemetery out there, and have been actually for a little while. It's been a long and drawn-out process. I think I've understood from Jim, and he can nod his head, that excess to left over after the land was purchased. Is that right? So are we to understand there is still money in the long-term plan to develop the cemetery as it has been planned to be? So that's a question, Your Worship.
Yes, I got that.
Through the chair, yes, you're correct that the money we're talking about for the Quarry Gardens is surplus money from the land purchase. The land has been purchased, and there is budget in the LDP for the development of the cemetery.
Okay. This is one of those situations where you got to think on your feet, so to speak. Always found that difficult, Your Worship. But we'll do our best. So I'm just going to listen to the rest of the thing here and try and make a quick decision. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Holmes.
So, Councillor Cooper beat me to it. So really, I was going to ask the same question, that just to ensure that money was still there to develop the cemetery in Waipu, Ruakākā. So I'm happy with that. But the other thing, just a comment I wanted to make, really, was just wanted to commend Councillor Olsen in pushing this very strongly. Done a lot of work around this, and I also share the view that it's a bit of a jewel in the crown for us, and we must do what we can to preserve this for future generations. I think Councillor Connaughton's amendment has merit, because it is looking at the bigger picture. I think it strengthens your motion, because it says that we need to look at the future of how we control these slips. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know whether that's possible, whether it isn't. But I would support what Councillor Connop has said in trying to look at this in part of the long-term plan. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors, is there any other comments? Okay, we'll move to the amendment. So, councillors, the amendment is basically, sorry? No, an amendment first. We're going to deal with the amendment first.
When do I get to
Okay, sorry, Carolyn has corrected me on this, and my apologies, councillor. Would you like to take your right to reply before or after the motion on the amendment?
Before, please, Your Worship.
Would you like to take your right
Thank
to reply
you. I've heard Councillor Connop's amendment. I just would like to point out that if we go down this track to that question, would be yes. So are you prepared for that? There are, I just want to say there's 9 slips in that quarry. We're only dealing with one at the moment. And also throughout the Western Hills, there are many slips, all of which will wash down into the rivers and the streams eventually. We're not going to do anything about that. So, you know, we can't mitigate that. So I can't support your amendment. I'm sorry, Nick.
Right, so the right reply has been had.
Division, please.
A division has been called. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your right hand.
Councillors Holmes, Harding, Connop.
That's it. Those against the amendment.
Councillors Jovich, Reid, Peters, Olsen, Hulse, Benny, and His Worship, and Go Lightly, and Coop abstaining.
Councillor Cooper's abstaining, okay.
Lost.
That amendment has been lost. Going back to the substantial motion. Division has been called again for the substantial motion. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
Councillors Jovich, Reid, Peters, Olsen, Holmes, Harding, Connop, Benny, Go Lightly, and His Worship.
And those against?
Councillors Hulse and Cooper. Carried.
Has been carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item. Before I move on to item 6.7, I need to read that subsequent to the agenda being circulated, item 6.7, contract 21015 Port Road Bridge widening and Kiora intersection upgrade. Contract variation number 2 was distributed separately, but not within the time frame specified in the GOIMA. The report was not included in the agenda for the reason that funding implications were still being worked through at the time of the agenda closure. Council are asked to consider this matter at today's meeting to enable payment to be made. Councillors, we're first moving to accept the agenda item.
Is it on this? Is it a part of this paper or a separate document?
It's on the separate agenda, the separate supplement agenda. So I'll move that. Do I have a second? Councillor Reid has seconded. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.7, which is on supplementary agenda, page 73. I'll move that. Councillor Connop, you're seconding. And I'll just pull up on the agenda, make sure I can read this correctly. Sorry, councillors, just bringing it on the screen here. And I will. So I will move that council note that the Port Road Bridge widening and Kiora Road intersection upgrade projects have been substantially completed on time and $575,000 under approved contract value for the scope of work. 2. Note that as part of the project, additional out-of-scope urgent work have been proactively undertaken to renew other council assets while the site is available, which minimises future disruption, delivers needed renewals, and efficiently deliver a program. Item 3 notes that there was no budget in the current year for the outer scope work, and therefore it is to be treated as unbudgeted capex. Projects signalised in the draft 2024 LTP can now be removed as they have already been constructed. 4. Agreed to retrospect approve the out-of-scope urgent work as part of Contract 21015 and recognise that this will be unbudgeted capex. 5. Agreed to retrospectively approve unbudgeted spend for urban intersection upgrades of $1,848,247, acknowledging that $5 million of the budget was deferred to in the preparation of the 2023-24 annual plan. Under the premises, these funds could be brought forward if required. Item 6 agrees to increase the contract value for the Port Road Bridge widening and Kiora Road section upgrade contract 21015 by $501,000 to $14,820,000, $53.22, and that's just read out there, excluding GST. I have moved that. Councillor Conniff has seconded that. Councillors, the purpose of this motion was to fix up an issue which was actually found on site while the contractors were working. So when they dug up the site, they found that pipes needed to be replaced at the same time. If the contract was to keep going and do as per required and do nothing with those pipes, we would then having to be redigging up those pipes round about now to fix up those pipes. So proactively, the staff actually went out there and made sure that the contractor was able to do the job at the same time and actually get the work done, and therefore ended up saving council money rather than having to re-dig up the site. So while it does mean an increase in the contract value, the final contract value, it has actually been a cost saving for council in the long run. That is the big reasons for this. The staff have acknowledged that they've done this out of scope, as in like out of order, and they have promised that not to happen again. However, this is what we have to do to try and fix up an out of scope project of something which was urgently needed at the time. Councillor Conniff, you'd like to speak to this?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very much in support of going forward with this and dealing with it as it's been presented to us. Taking a step back, when I used to work for recreational services, we had to be planting the side of State Highway 1. We had to be within a specific time frame to be able to plant these things, get out there, get the job done. Whilst we were planting the area, we came across a whole lot of rubbish that had been dumped over people's fences over time. This would have needed to be taken care of separately at another time, closing the road down, opening it back up to be able to get the contractor in there. Considering at that point in time as well, the contract was still with recreational services, aside from the fact that sometimes we would have to wait for approval to get given. We got somebody out onto the site to get rid of the rubbish straight away. So one, we can plant the area out, but two, we can deal with the traffic management right then and there and get it done right now. This is the exact same situation where we have roadworks that's dug up a road. We've got pipes that need redoing. This is the thing that if we, in a year or something like that, came back, set up all this roadworks, dug up the roads wherever these things exactly are, the public perception of this would be absolutely, we'd be laughing stock. Considering we just put the road down, why the hell didn't we deal with it straight away? So I fully support the staff going ahead dealing with this, because rather than digging it up the road and having another line seam in the road to have water ingress into the road and then have more potholes. It's great to see that we've had this stuff done, future-proofed. The road is nice and flat, and it's not going to deteriorate for a much longer time. So I'm fully in support of the way we've gone about this, and thank the staff for being efficient and getting the job done first time and now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say I applaud the contractors for going in and doing the work that was required. How often do we hear people saying, you know, oh, they've done this job, but the culverts haven't been cleaned or the drains haven't been dug out, and how much flack we cop for that. So I actually really applaud the contractors for doing this, and a dollar spent today is saving for the future. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Yovich.
Just a question about the motion. Will that be taken in parts?
No, Councillor. If you'd like to take it in parts, can you tell us what parts you'd like to take it in?
Okay.
We have no intention of taking the parts at this present moment.
It's a difficult motion to actually, a boat ramp that isn't even used. So the flaws just continue all the time, and it's disappointing that, we were told just recently last week we're doing things differently, like how we are, and it's disappointing. Just out of principle, I will not accept this motion. I understand the reasoning behind it, but we need change, and we're not getting it. Thank you.
Councillor Hulse.
You're just reinforcing what Councillor Yovich just mentioned. Everyone in council who's been here for at least 10 years knows the main sewage lines runs right through that intersection. And although I feel as this agenda item should have been a lot earlier, so we should have been notified a lot earlier. Some of the work would have had to be, it makes sense to actually upgrade it now before we complete the project, but that doesn't go past it. We got our scope wrong, didn't we? We've got to spend more time just sitting down, talking about the scope and getting that dam right in the first place. And I've been suggesting that for some time around here. And man, this makes me really determined to push it now. Thank you.
And Councillor Hulse, your point has been taken, and that's one of the reasons why we're trying to sort out this issue. Simon, do you have something you want to add to this one?
This project was started off 4 or 5 years ago. This council was fortunate in that it applied for funding from MB and scored $10 million towards the Port Road improvements, and that contract was awarded in 2021 to United Civil. They've done a great job in doing the 3 separable portions since 2021, and this is the final section of that. While the ground was excavated, staff were able to do the inspections that they wanted to do on the assets, and appropriate decisions were made at that point in time to either relocate some services or replace services at that point in time. The notification of these works should have come through early. I fully accept that. However, the right decision was made to replace those works and include that within the overall contract, which is 2021 contract.
Okay. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I probably need to put my hand up here a little bit. I feel like the baby with a messy nappy's landed right back in my lap here. As our CE alluded, this planning was in the last term of council, and we scoped things a lot different there to how we plan to do it from here on in. So I'll just signal that, and I'm right behind Councillor Hulse with his thinking around change. My apologies, this should have come back to chamber before it proceeded. It was going to hold up the job because we did have leaks in those pipes, and they pretty much needed to be dealt with right there and then. So once again, my apologies to my fellow councillors for not being a little bit more astute. And the reason I did back the continuation of that work was the fact that I live in this town, and many people know me, and I would hate to think that the backlash Councillor Hulse and myself would have got if we'd then gone and dug up a brand new roundabout. Would be more than just the baby's nappy in our lap. It would also have headed down the path of possibly needing a new consent, which would have once again held up the work. We were just lucky that everything was parcelled together on that particular job. It did hold us up for a couple of weeks on something else, but by and large it worked pretty well. So the scope was reasonable as far as the consent process went. Now, some of the cost involved in this was already in our annual plan. It's just been shifted, so there was some leniency, I suppose, awarded there. And the fact that the total job has still come in just under budget instead of quite a bit under budget, that's, I think, an indication of the way the job progressed was actually the right way to do it, even though it was wrong in the eyes of the chamber. We did save money in the long run. It would have cost us a pile of dough had we delayed on that particular facet of the job. Once again, my apologies, and I can assure you that on this watch it will not happen again.
Councillor Harding.
Kia ora to the chair. Mihi atu ki a koe for your kōrero, Councillor Reid. From what I've heard, it's saved dollars. It's that you've had hapu engaged all the way so that you didn't have to go back and do that extra additional resource consenting and an additional cost that would have made. I certainly appreciate the position from Councillor Hulse. So, I mean, obviously we don't want this to be normal practice, but and not being an engineer, it made sense to, you dig in, you find something, you fix it. And then you make sure you cover your butt later on where the costs lie. So, as Councillor Reid said, it was probably just a comms issue, really. But it is an example of where, you know, the team of infrastructure, the GM of infrastructure, and the chair of infrastructure were all over it. And it was just kind of the comms getting it back to us. So I support the recommendation. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Any other comments? No, I'll have my right of reply. And Council, I'm really glad that Councillor Reid and both Simon have also highlighted some of the issues that have been going on with the project. I am reassured that this is something that won't be happening again, and that the scoping will be done a lot better. This is a tidying up of a job which was gone from the previous term. However, I do say again, if the job had to be opened up on the road now, we would have got huge amounts of ridicule right now for doing that. So I actually applaud the staff in actually taking the initiative and actually getting the job done, and having the team on site to actually get the job done as well. And overall, actually to do the project for under budget, which is, you know, that's a hat off to them as well. So I do acknowledge that while the scope wasn't done properly, the actual product at the end of the day has become better and is cheaper. So, councillors, the right of reply has been had. All those in favour? Any opposed? Councillor, would you like recorded against? Yes, that was a yes. Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move into confidential. Do we have a mover for that, please? Councillor Peters, Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move to confidential. I'll give just